Okay, this is my TOK vlog final exam project. Sorry I have to take it on my phone. I hope the quality isn't too bad. The webcam on my computer doesn't want to take past 10 minutes, and it just cuts off all sound, which isn't going to work. So, a whole year of TOK has now come to a close, and when pondering the knowledge gained in this class, I really realized just how much that is. Sometimes you don't really realize how much you've learned until you look back at it and summarize it. We've explored 4 units: the nature of knowledge, sense perception is a way of knowing, language as a way of knowing, and emotions as a way of knowing. I really like TOK because I feel that you can incorporate all of the interesting things about humans, about evolution, all the things that make us who we are that don't really fit into any other class criteria. So, first off, the nature of knowledge. This unit I felt was vital because it set the backdrop for the rest of the year and for the rest of the TOK class. We had to adjust our brains to think TOK and to put ourselves into that mode. One of the main ideas of this unit was knowledge versus information, and that helped us learn about, because the class is called Theory of Knowledge, the concept of knowledge versus information helped us learn about why we're trying to learn about knowledge and why we're kind of saying information isn't useful enough. When you know the knowledge behind something, you know all the pieces to it, why it is, how it is, what makes it work. When you just know the information, when you just know data or statistics, or you just know the summary of something, you're not really comprehending it, and we've learned how that isn't as valuable in the end. In this unit, we also learned about the perceptions of knowledge. We watched a few very good RSA animations, which I really enjoyed. They were trying to present an idea, and I tried to incorporate their presentation style into my first TOK project. I did a vlog over animations. It's really nice if you're just trying to express an idea and use visuals. The second unit was sense perception as a way of knowing. I found a really good linking question that did not only stimulate my train of thought, but also sort of encompasses the knowledge gained from this unit, I feel like. How far can our senses be trusted to give us the truth? It was shocking, when we first started talking about this in TOK, because I realized that every single thing I know has come from my senses. So this means that if my senses aren't accurate, none of my understanding of myself or my world around me is accurate, and potentially can be all wrong. It just was a very scary realization. We watched many insightful videos of experiments with this sense. One of the most memorable ones was the rubber hand video and the ba versus va video. They both demonstrated how the sense of sight has overpowered our other senses, and how something that's wrong is perceived as correct in our brains. For example, the difference between ba and ba. When we see ba, we cannot hear ba. And I thought that was scary, that I know I'm hearing ba, or I should be hearing it, but I keep hearing fa. Through these videos, I have come to appreciate how my body works and how I am proof of evolution. Even though you realize your senses aren't always right, you realize how strong your brain is, how strong your mind is, and how it's learned how to understand this world beyond what the senses give it. And I think that that really is a testament to how we were built to survive with evolution. We don't have to, so these sense experiments were eye-opening and interesting, but in the end the question was, could I continue to trust my senses? And I've taken the knowledge I've gained from TOK and decided to continue to trust my senses regardless. If I were not to trust them, I would second-guess everything in my life, and I do not want to do that whether or not my senses are right or wrong. So I've decided to consciously choose to trust my senses regardless of the knowledge I've learned about them potentially being incorrect. Okay, and our third unit was language as a way of knowing. The thoughts I were left with after this unit was that language is probably not the best way to know something. More often than not, there are misunderstandings more than there are clarifications. When learning about the power of languages, we focus on language as a literal dialect for communication, for example, Spanish, English, French. And we also looked at technology's toll on languages and how new technology has affected communication. Studying languages as a dialect was the most interesting to me when we compared idiomatic phrases between languages. In DP Spanish class, I've already learned about idiomatic phrases and about how incorrect they can be when trying to translate, and how this causes a misunderstanding, and what you're thinking is not what the other person is understanding. So, when learning about so much room for error, we had a project where each of the language classes were divided up within the TOK class, and we all created our own presentation. And my group, the Spanish group, were able to show examples of idiomatic phrases that were very helpful. For example, we used the phrase te echo de menos, which literally means I throw you less. But in actuality, if you're saying this, you're meaning I miss you. So I throw you less as an English speaker doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand what they're trying to say. And that's because I haven't been raised in that culture and I don't understand the history behind their language. But at the same time, I understand I've got a frog in my throat, break a leg, or out of the frying pan and into the fryer, or there's more than one way to skin a cat. While a Spanish-speaking person probably wouldn't understand those because they weren't raised in that culture. They don't understand what we're trying to talk about, what we're expressing, and where the idiomatic phrase comes from. So that was a great unit to relate to another class. And then also we studied the effects of technology on languages, and it left me with the same conclusion that there's more harm done than good most of the time when it comes to languages. Speaking through technology leaves out many important cues that humans have come accustomed to understanding in communication, such as body, language, facial, emotions, tone, intensity. Bree had a really good project on this about technology. She demonstrated this lack of communication. She had the phrase "I love you" written out in multiple different ways. She would misspell "you," or she'd add a period or a smiley face or a ... And what she was expressing was, we tried to replace the facial cues and the body cues with technology like ... and periods. But in the end, it's too hard to interpret from one person to another. There could be serious misunderstanding on what they really mean when they say "I love you," which otherwise would have been easy to hear in a tone or easy to see with body language. The fourth unit we had was emotions as a way of knowing. In this unit, we reviewed emotions as feelings, moods, and passions. And we talked about intuition, which is my favorite part. I'm really fascinated with the concept of intuition. We learned about how emotions are powerful yet confusing, and we were able to learn more about how they could be as easily be obstacles as they can be a way of understanding. A really good linking question was, how reliable are our feelings and emotions? And what I found so interesting about the topic is how difficult it was for me to find a real answer. I would try to answer that question and I would just confuse myself. as soon as I would come up with a conclusion, I would just as quickly come up with a counter example. For example, I would conclude that emotions are not reliable because they cloud judgment, but then the next second I think about how intuition always is right, even when you're trying to deny it because you want an emotion to continue. For example, love. If someone doesn't love you back, you normally can tell. You feel it deep down inside, but your emotions are so strong you want them to continue, therefore you don't want to admit the truth. Another confusing thing about emotions is how much they blend together. In my emotions project, I thought I had selected two very opposite emotions. I selected passion and peace. But it was only while creating the project that I realized how they could coexist together, and how oftentimes, for example, peace is made because you have a passion for it, or you have how they can just kind of coexist within one person because we are so complicated. In the end, I realized that every individual needs to be in touch enough with their personal emotions to understand whether or not they should trust it. You need to understand your own weaknesses and limitations in order to know what's right and wrong for yourself. It is only through personal growth that we learn to trust our intuitions. And when we can do that, we have gained another way of understanding the world, which is very valuable. So that's a goal we should set for ourselves. And I really just appreciate all of these new ideas that I've learned in TOK, all these new concepts. And it's not something I've never thought about before, because they're questions I've had. Questions like, well, what if this isn't real? What if I'm wrong? How do I know? These are questions I've all thought to myself, but I never had a class or an opportunity to learn about them. But with TOK, I've had this opportunity, and I've been able to maybe not find answers, but get closer to it, or at least find methods to find the answers, or at least just learn about other people's points of views, which can be helpful to eventually find my own point of view. So thank you for this wonderful TOK year. I hope you have a good summer, and I'll see you next year.